So this is Sam, and we kind of let him do a little bit more than you kind of took a back seat and let him kind of do his thing so I could kind of evaluate him. So when I sat down, Sam tried to jump up on me repetitively. Now I have a pocket full of probably the best treats he's ever had, and he could smell them. But sometimes he was also jumping up here, and he was grasping right there. So he's trying to hump. He's trying to dominate. So I'm using a leash, not the best camera work during that, there we go, to prevent him and block him from being able to do this. Now we're going to go through some other techniques that are going to help change the dynamic. But basically when a dog does this, a lot of times it's because it gets the impression that it's in charge, and he wants to let people know, hey, I'm in charge of you. I'm going to dominate you to let you know that I'm the boss of you. So one of the first questions I ask my client after how can I help you is, what rules does your dog have? So I'm going to ask you guys that question. What rules does Sam have?
So, I mean, I think normally if he was doing that, we would probably...
That's more of a consequence if you're going to talk about doing something. So for rules, I look for things that the dog wants to do that can't do without permission.
Yeah, so when we bring him inside, after walking him, he does wait for permission to come upstairs.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's one thing
Okay.
that he does. They also wait for, we have that gate up over in the bedroom.
Okay.
And when that thing is taken off, they know that they're allowed to come in there as well.
Okay.
So sometimes they wait for the go ahead as well.
Okay, sometimes. Okay.
Sam's pretty good about, he looks to me after I load his bowl with food to actually eat it. Because I
Get permission to
when he
eat?
was younger, I told him I did the okay thing, and he wouldn't eat till I said okay. So
Okay.
now he may eat without me saying okay, but he still looks to...
One thing as for you guys and for people watching at home, never want to use the word okay as your release word. It's a top 100 most commonly used words. I've heard about people who have their dog on a leash and they're standing in a busy street and they say okay and the dog jumps out and gets clipped by a car. So you want to use break, release, something very specific.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically he's got to wait for permission to come up the stairs from the door over there. And sometimes sometimes they have to wait to go into the bedroom, but the rest of the time there's a baby gate up there. So besides that, we really don't have any rules? And a little waiting for food sometimes.
Waiting for food, and he does know how to wait for treats. So
Okay.
in front of his nose, not because when he was smaller, he used to go for the whole hand when he
Sure.
got a treat. So
Okay, so dogs go through life. One of the main ways they learn is they probe to test where boundaries and limits are. So he kept on trying to hump me, so I kept on disagreeing with him, and then I incorporated a leash to give him a leash timeout. Now I was stepping on the leash pretty close to him to prevent him from jumping up to prevent the humping, because I don't want to shove. Dogs only shove when they're playing or humping. So if I shove him back, that can be a challenge, and it's also not the message I want to send him. Once he kind of relaxed, I took my foot off of the leash. Now off of the short part of the leash. He's still tethered to the long part of the leash because I don't want to give him free rein. This is what I call a doggy timeout. So when the dog is misbehaving or his energy level is too high, and we'll talk off camera what constitutes too high energy, I put them on a leash and I step on the leash. In his case, you want to give him just enough room to sit. So for him, because he's going to try to hump, there we go. So that's a good example. So I was able to put my foot on the leash down there and prevent him from getting up. Now he can get up a little bit, but he can't do the same thing that he was doing before. So now, a little bit to the side, so he can't achieve what he wants to achieve. So he sits, I give him a little bit more slack, I pull my foot, I withdrew my foot a little bit. So I'm using this, to give him basically a timeout as a consequence. I don't believe in punishing dogs, but consequences are what we all have in life. So this is getting a little bit long, so this is, I want to just kind of show this as a leash timeout. So when I put the dog on a leash timeout, I wait for the dog to, sometimes they'll throw a temper tantrum. When they do, you don't say a word. Again, you might have to step on it with 2 feet, you look petite. James and I are big enough we could do it with probably 1 foot. But we wait for him to settle down. And when he settles down, he'll sit, and the leash will be like it is now. It'll be tense. He'll sit as far away from me as possible. When he lays down, I want to take the tension off of the leash immediately. Now this is a little bit different than how I normally do it. Let's say the leash was going from there to there, and it's tense. I then would slide my foot towards him to take the tension off of the line. So basically what I'm going to do is, hey, if you can't control yourself, I'm going to take over, and then you lose all freedom. Now, once he sits, sitting is a more subordinate position. So I slide my foot towards him, and I want to do that to take the tension off the line so it's not taut. Once I do that, usually a minute later, they will lay down. And sometimes it's 10 minutes later. Sometimes it takes a while. I wait for the dog to lay down. You can see him right now. He's breathing heavy. He's excited still. Most dogs get in the most trouble when they're overexcited. Most humans misinterpret excited for happy. We want calm, especially when you have a dog that can be aggressive. Because when he's too excited, that can lead to problems. Now, once he lays down, then I take my foot off the leash, and then he can wander around and do what he's doing as he is now. Now, he can drag the leash, but he should only drag the leash supervised, because he could obviously get it hung up on something and injure himself. If a minute or two later he stays calm like he is now, then I could take him off the leash. But if he came over and started humping me again, I could immediately step back down on that leash and choke up and take away his ability to jump up and try to mount me. All right, so that's the leash timeout.